I am Tammy Bagwell, and this is my story. I grew up in a pastor's home and went to church all of my life. I came to know the Lord at the age of 8. At the age of 18, I got married, and I left town. I moved to Louisiana with my husband, and within 30 days of my marriage, I started being hit. Shortly thereafter, the verbal abuse began. There was emotional abuse. Eventually, it led into even sexual abuse. Although family eventually knew about it, I also kept a lot of things from them. And a lot of people don't think about when someone's away from home, they're 18 years old, who do you turn to? So I really didn't feel like I had a whole lot. And I was raised in a pastor's home, so to me, marriage was forever. There was no out. And for about 13 years, I lived in that marriage. I left a couple of times. It was in 1990 that I left and made a decision to stay gone. And God stopped me because halfway through moving here, the car breaking down in the middle of nowhere, a man from out of what seemed to be nowhere stopped and asked me who was moving because he saw the U-Haul. And I explained to him what was going on in my life. And he said, "God's trying to tell you something." I said, "Excuse me?" He said, "God said, go home." In September the 3rd of 1990, a man walked up to me at church and he said, "God told me to tell you He's going to give you the desires of your heart. He's going to give you a child. It's not going to be to make your marriage better. It's going to be because of your faithfulness and your obedience to Him." On September 1st of 1992, I gave birth to a beautiful little baby girl, Morgan Lynn. Before she turned 2 years old, the abuse had gotten really bad, and to the point of I would lock myself in a bedroom at times. And one night I remember holding Morgan and just thinking, she can't think this is normal when she grows up. Morgan turned 2 on September 1st, 1994. On September 2nd, she and I left and moved to Florida, where my parents were pastoring at the time. I came back to visit, fell in love, and Morgan absolutely adored Tony, the man that I had fallen in love with. Morgan started school at Fountain Inn Elementary. When I moved back, I had to change careers. I was in television for a good while, and I made a career change and went into the real estate industry. So I had gone to the Greenville Board of Realtors orientation that day. When I got home, I expected Morgan to be there because she was supposed to go to a birthday party. Little did I know that at 5:30 that day, my life was going to change forever. When my mom walked in the door and told me that we needed to go to the hospital, they've been in an accident and you need to sign for Morgan to be treated, I sped all the way to the hospital. The nurse took us back, and all I remember when the doctor walked in was her saying, "I don't know how to do this. I've never had to do it before." I didn't have to be told. I knew at that moment what had happened. That was the tragic night that my daughter had died. That was it. I lost it. And I remember sitting at the top of the stairs at my parents' house when no one was there. And I would sit and just scream to the top of my lungs. Why? Why my child? The child I wanted, I begged you for 8 years. That was, again, October 2nd, 1997, that she passed away. And Tony and I were just dating. But again, I knew that he was the man for me. He was the one I was gonna spend the rest of my life with. And his daughter was pregnant at the time. And so I thanked God that I was gonna have a child in my life. Then eventually, Tony and I got married, and Lexi ended up living with us. Lexi is now 16 and a half years old. She's my blessing. You know, through everything I've been through, the abusive marriage, the loss of a child, I've come to the conclusion I can ask God why. I can say, why did I have to be the one that suffered at the hands of abuse? Why did I have to lose my only biological child? But someday when I make it to heaven, they're not going to matter. I realize one thing, and that's God's faithful. Not long ago, I asked Lexi a question. I said, if you could change one thing in your life, what would you change?